Hi, hello. So, this isn't my most common video, but I figured this channel is really inactive, so why not start posting art rants? Yes, this is a for school project, but it gives me an idea for my channel. Anyways, so what are serial killers? The textbook definition of a serial killer is someone who commits an unlawful homicide with periods in between multiple victims. However, serial killers are much more than a textbook definition, just as people are way more than just living organisms. Another thing that serial killers tend to do is have a motive. This can be something along the lines of sexual gratification, power play, control, thrill seeking, and many other reasons. The victims that these killers choose tend to be similar, whether that be men, women, children, adults, lookalikes, same personalities, and even more. Now, I did in fact say tend, so that says basically that serial killers, all of them aren't like this. Some killers are just sporadic, or they don't have a reason, or they saw someone and they're just, you know what, I want to kill you, kind of thing. So, for example, the vampire of Sacramento, who saw unlocked doors as an invitation to go in and kill the people, it also cannibalized them and drink their blood, hence the name. His whole motive was just that their doors were unlocked and that he wanted to do these things. But now that we got that out of the way, today this video isn't about him. Today's video is about Dr. Death. Dr. Death, also known as Harold Frederick Shipman, was known as Fred. He was the favorite child of his domineering mother, Vera, who was born into a working class family in Manchester. A bright child, he became interested in medicine. He watched his mother actually receive morphine for the pain while dying of lung cancer, and just watching how her face relaxed, it got him into medicine and wanting to look at what else would happen with this. Now, when she died, sadly, June 21st, 1936, 63, got those backwards, he was determined to go to medical school. And while in medical school, he was able to meet his wife, Primrose, at the age of 19, and they were actually married when she was 17 and 5 months pregnant with their first child. Mind you, he ended up going along and actually having 4 children. By 1974, he was a father of 2 and had joined a medical practice, and he basically thrived as a family practitioner. And the local undertaker noted that Dr. Shipman's patients seemed to be dying at an unusually high rate, and they usually had the same pose whenever they ended up dying. They were fully clothed and usually sitting up or reclining in a seat. Now, his targets were mostly older women, and basically he would kill them while they were at their house. All of his victims seemed to be healthy, and that's the thing with this, is that, wait a minute, all these patients are healthy, and it would kind of set a red flag. But what Dr. Shipman would do is he would actually go back and edit reports to have a build-up to their death. Basically, if you went and looked back, there would be multiple different accounts of them feeling this way or that way or whatever whenever they died. And that would make people be like, oh, well, they were already sick, so they just died because they were sick, when in all reality they weren't. And basically what he would do afterward is he would encourage the family to do cremation over burial, and most families did this. I'm pretty sure all families except for like the last one did this, and in which case that was the one that got him caught. Not only that, but also her will, as we will get into. Shipman actually betrayed the trust of a lot of people. He had at least 215 kills. Now that's a lot. And even worse is he was a doctor. And the fact that you being in such a vulnerable position with somebody, such as a doctor, is appalling. And there's also more cases that talk about there could possibly be 260 patients who ended up dying. And I believe it's reported that the youngest was a 4-year-old girl. Now, moving on, his very last victim was Kathleen Grundy, an 81-year-old former May Rose of Hyde. Basically, he forged her will using a really old typewriter. And the thing about her will is it said, I give all my estate money and house to my doctor. My family are not in need, and I want to reward him for all of the care he has given me and the people of Hyde. And this was astonishing because she had a really good relationship with her family. And so people, the police, everybody was talking about how he wanted to be caught. Like, either that be consciously or subconsciously. Or maybe he even thought he was invincible because the signature was obviously forged as well. You didn't even need to be part of a police investigation to know that this signature was in fact forged. Moving on, Shipman had also forgotten or failed to grasp that each alteration of the records would be time-stamped by the computer. So when the police had gone back and looked, they would realize that these claims that he went back and wrote about to make it seem like they were dying have been altered. After that, it was obvious because there were also fingerprint analysis to be forged, showing that Grundy hadn't even touched the will whatsoever. And it was obvious that all of these things pointed back to Shipman. Now, Shipman would also pretend to call the emergency service, except for he would cancel the calls when the victim was thought to be dead. And what would happen would the families would go out or go to leave or anything like that, and then they would come back and he'd be like, I'm so sorry, but they're gone. And one person who was in the room actually left for a second and came back, and he was on the phone, in quotes, on the phone with emergency services, and then he canceled it, and it was like, oh no, she's gone, without barely even actually checking, as if he knew for a fact that she was gone. And not to mention, once they look back at the telephone records, there were no actual calls made. The entire thing about this was that he faked all of these calls. There was no calls ever. Now, he stayed at the Durham prison throughout all of these investigations. And through all of these investigations, they slowly built more and more and more evidence on him. And what scared him was the fact that he was most likely going to stay in prison. And I say scared because of something I'm going to mention here in a little bit. Now, he kept maintaining his innocence. His wife, his family, everybody that was really close to him said that he was innocent. And then he was moved to Wakefield Prison in June 2003, which made visits from his family easier so that they didn't have to go as far and it would just be easier. And a little bit later, in January 13th, 2004, Shipman was discovered hanging in his prison cell at Wakefield. It was said that he used bed sheets tied to the window bars of his cell to hang himself. And it remains a mystery about where his remains are and everything. Some people say that they're still in the morgue at the prison, and some others say that his family has his body. And some actually say that he was murdered in his cell, which could also be an idea, but most killers, especially psychopaths, they usually tend to kill themselves after they're caught. And basically, in the end, there is one last question. How is there such a large number of deaths that could have occurred without raising suspicions of foul play? Keep in mind that there was about 200 something victims, and he was a doctor, and every single victim, they were dropping like flies. So the question remains, why didn't anybody look into it whenever his victims first started dying? Why was he just let free? And that actually stems back to how he acted. My mom actually has somebody who went to a college with Dr. Shipman. He is currently a doctor, and she used to work with his records and his patients and such. And he was the most well-known doctor around where we live because from what he heard, when he realized that, hey, this happened, he strived to be better. He strived to save anybody that he possibly could. And he said that Shipman was very isolated. He was very alone. He was awkward, and he just had that vibe that this person is not a good kind of weird. This person is not a, oh, do this funny, haha. This person was actually somebody he should stay away from. And because of his intuition, he stayed away from him. He also noted that he smelled weird, and that there's just bad vibes completely around him. And Dr. Shipman always wanted to work alone. He was always like, no, I want to do this by myself. I want to take patients by myself. I don't need help. And because of him not having a nurse, because of him being the only doctor, they just took his word for it. And that's one of the reasons that he wasn't caught as soon as he could have been. And so that's what we have on Dr. Death. Let me know if you want to go into a deeper dive, because these are just skim over notes for a class project. So I'm so willing to get into this and actually get hours of interviews and everything based on this. So let me know if you want to see more.